I lived a life of happiness. I granted myself permission for happiness. Imagine that day. That, my friends, is how I want to die. I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. The number one regret of the dying, as written by Bronnie Ware in 2012, in her incredible book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Hello, welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. As always, I am your eager host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a phenomenal day. Today we are talking about this incredible written masterpiece by a caregiver, a palliative care caregiver herself and healthcare provider, Bronnie Ware, written in 2012. And she wrote this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And guys, if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it because it is so incredibly powerful to imagine what you will be thinking when you face your last day. That is what Bronnie did. She was a caregiver of patients who were passing, who were dying, knew they were dying, and she was taking care of them in the last few years and months and days of their lives, and interviewing them, trying to understand. And she saw there was a universal theme in all of us human beings. There were really top 5 regrets. And the number one was, I wish I had lived a life true to myself. True to myself. And when I read that, man, how true did that feel to me? Can you imagine on the last day of your life, confronting yourself with that realization of, oh my gosh, I have lived 70, 80, 90 years in other people's expectations of the way that I should be living. Oh man, just let that sit for a moment. Has that been true for you in your life? Let me tell you, in my experience, not just in dentistry, but as a life coach to dentists and doctors, I can say this is most certainly true, and that we do not pay attention to this in the beautiful prime of our lives when we have the opportunity to make enormous change. And if this is a whisper to you right now, if you've kind of been thinking about this, let this episode be a major wake-up call. You know, I grew up, as many of you know, in South Africa. I was born in South Africa. I lived there until I was around 10 years old, and then I came to the States in 89. And which makes me 12, between 10 and 12 years old is when I moved. And when I look back at that time of my life around age 10, man, she was amazing. I love that little girl. She loved herself. She was creative. She loved acting. She loved singing. She loved leadership. She loved guiding and helping other people to live their best lives. She loved teaching. She was just really happy. She was really creative and witchy. She had all this kind of intuitive knowing. She loved music and the arts. She loved intellectual pursuits. She was courageous. She was so kind and compassionate to others, man. And I think back about that little girl that I used to be. She just loved to see other people shine. And she believed deeply in herself and believed deeply in others. And right around that age is where, going into junior high, we called it, where I was going to school in America, but many people call it middle school, that middle school time where you suddenly realize, oh, wait a minute. Other people are looking at me and evaluating me. I think before that, I didn't even really care. I was just living my best life. I was just loving this life. I grew up in a country of wildlife and wild animals and wild people, possibility, potential, excitement. It was a time when apartheid was falling in South Africa. So radical change in our country. There was hope and excitement for the future. And I was so excited to be a part of those things. And then imagine, moving to America. I can't even impress on you on what a big, exciting event that was in my life. I lived life from a place of excitement and enthusiasm and optimism, not just for me, but for the people around me. And when junior high, middle school hit me and I realized, oh, wait a minute, there are other people checking me out, judging me, evaluating me, ranking me. That's when I started living my life, making choices in my life based on other people's expectations. And many of them were, very positive, I think, at the time. They were helping me succeed. I was very good at school, if you will. School came easily to me. I loved learning. I loved focusing and reading and growing. So for me, academics was easy. So when I started getting expectations from my family of higher and higher achievement, that felt a little bit good. So I started doing more and more of that. But I started chasing the achievement and lost sight of the impetus for learning, the joy of learning. I started just doing it for the reward. It was around middle school when I started really noticing my body all of a sudden and started making choices based on other people's expectations, even of my body. That shame and embarrassment when you start growing some curves, that fear of how people are looking at you, that wanting to hide, wanting to squash everything down and rather be seen for your intellect. Expectations again and again and again. I even remember writing an essay, and I wrote this beautiful, beautiful piece in middle school and scrapped the whole thing because I thought, oh, that's not what the teacher's expecting. Let me write what the teacher is expecting. I literally have that memory of myself. And I think so many of us in healthcare have ended up where we are because of expectations of others, or even in business, in the business world of healthcare. Even in our roles or positions, ended up where we are based on somebody else's expectation and not following that true dream of yours from that initial point. One of those dreams I remember was standing up on stage. I loved acting. I loved speaking. I loved sharing and inspiring. I felt alive on stage. And then I went into dentistry, which was, right in a chair in front of one person, very, very small in terms of expression of your own self. And dentistry is so clearly defined. Yes, there's beautiful room for creativity, especially in orthodontics, which is a specialty I went into. And that's why I went into it, because there was creation and excitement and joy. And that spoke to a part of myself. But still, wasn't I really living true to myself? And it's so interesting because if I look at my personal development journey over the past 36 years, what really I see is it's a coming home to that 10-year-old girl. It's a coming home. It's a stripping off of all of those expectations of others and rediscovering me, rediscovering myself. So, what I wanted to share with you today here is really looking at those top 5 regrets of the dying and understanding what it is that really Bronnie found universal. And this was written up in multiple journals. Her work has been heralded far and wide. The NIH even wrote up an article about it. So even in medicine, it's been recognized in terms of mental health and self-awareness. And I wish that we could have the self-awareness while we're still in our prime, while we can still make change, and not wait till our last day to have these regrets. I never want to live my life with regret. I mean, do you agree with me on that? I don't want to regret anything. In fact, that's one of the tenets that my father has taught me is have no regrets. And what that to me means is learn from your mistakes. But I also want to look forward and take action with intention and knowledge of who I am, not just on what other people want from me or expect from me. And, beyond these 5 regrets of the dying, Bronnie Ware in her book had a very secondary theme, because what she noticed is, as a caregiver herself, there was a great warning against burnout. So she was saying, look, taking care of other people who are in pain is extremely high risk for burnout. And that theme is very present in her book. And hello, guys, I'm talking to you, doctors and dentists. We have a very high risk of burnout. Burnout is this big word right now that everybody's screaming from the rooftops. And it's almost become so popular that we begin to ignore the severity of it. Guys, this is real. This is real. And this is one of those things that impacts the way we look at our lives. So let's go over those. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of her book because it really is fascinating. And I think it's great insight for us as we're looking at ourselves in our career and in our lives of how to look at our lives a little bit differently. So that first one really hits me hard. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expect of me. And I think when you get to that statement, when you get to that understanding that that's what universally people feel like on their last days, in their last days of their life, you're at a point in your life where you've already created some sort of momentum, where you've already established a career, you've already put and invested in a path, a profession for yourself. So let's just speak it to what it is: healthcare, dentistry, medicine. You're in it. And the courage to live a life true to myself. We sometimes make these choices about going into medicine and dentistry when we're babies, 18, 19 years old. We put ourselves on this trajectory of a profession, and often it was at the insistence or the strong guidance of our parents. And trust me, I am the parent of a 17-year-old, so I know how this goes. I fall prey to it as well. I see the incredible potential in my daughter, and I want to guide her to success. So our parents didn't do it from a place of egoism, not all of them, or control, not all of them, but often it was from a place of deep love and having seen us for our potential. I mean, whoever you are, reaching for a doctor or dentist was probably a very high reach. It was a big, big goal. When people believed in you, they really believed in you. So thank you. And maybe it felt really good to get that recognition, especially if you were like me from a very young age, given recognition and love and appreciation for your intellect and for your achievement, right? So when people give you love for achievement, you want to achieve more. That means more love. So often we stepped into this career path with blinders on. We just did it because it felt good and because other people believed in us. But was it a life true to yourself? And even within that profession, I mean, I know in dentistry, we have an enormous scope, so many aspects of dentistry. It's not just the general dentist sitting in the chair treating the patient. There's so many other opportunities in terms of consulting and teaching and, radiology or writing journals or doing research. I mean, there's an enormous range of opportunity within the profession. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you wake up one day and you're like, wait a minute, I wasn't 8 years old dreaming of being a dentist. And some of us were, but that certainly wasn't me. I wasn't 8 years old dreaming of being a dentist. I was 8 years old dreaming of being an astronaut. But I fell into dentistry. Hey guys, how many of you have been feeling completely exhausted and overwhelmed at work and in dentistry? Well, that used to be me. Imagine a day where you could actually go to work and feel calm and presence with your patients and clarity over the decision making, that it's coming from a place of intellectual curiosity or creativity and not from a place of fear or defensiveness. Imagine being able to go home at the end of the day and actually be present for the people you love. I'm introducing to you Nervous System Regulation for Dentists. It's a fabulous 4-week self-paced audio course to help you combat burnout and exhaustion from stress and overwhelm at work. Simply text the words "Be Calm," that's BECALM, to the number 66866 and discover your solution to stress in dentistry. The second regret of the dying is also one that speaks to our profession so deeply. And when I say this to you, you're going to swallow hard. You're going to choke. I wished I hadn't worked so hard. Boom. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. That is the number 2 regret of the dying. When you get to the last days of your life, are you going to look back over your life and say, I wish I hadn't worked that hard? I wish I lived more. I wish I lived more. What was the point of working so damn hard? And in dentistry and in medicine, that is our motto. We work hard. It's almost like there is no other option. It's almost like we don't even recognize that there might be something else. We are the ones that go on vacation and can't slow down. We're not the ones that people are worried about lying on the couch eating bonbons all the time because there's no alternative. It's hard work. Life is hard work. That's just the way it is. It's so ingrained in our ethos that we can't even consider the alternative. And yet, this is, guys, the number 2 regret of the dying. I'm talking about living our human experience here. I know I'm speaking to you because you're in medicine and dentistry, because that's what this podcast is all about, but I'm talking about your life. I'm talking about getting to those last days and looking back over your 7 decades, 8 decades, 9 decades of life, of this one, as far as we know, this one opportunity, this one chance we get. For all we know. I mean, maybe there's more. I hope there's more. But if there isn't, we have this one, guys. And doesn't that make sense that you get to the last day and you say, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't worked so damn hard. Let that just sink in. The number 3 regret of the dying is, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. And this one hits hard too, because I know that I'm speaking to you and I know that you can feel this. And how often do we make ourselves small, limit ourselves, and not say how we feel? Not just to the world out there, but to ourselves. To me, this statement, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings, isn't just the way we speak to our loved ones. Absolutely. I mean, if anybody has had a loved one who passed, this is what I hear all the time. I wish I told them I love them. Or I wish we had had a conversation about that challenge in our lives that we just didn't talk about any longer. We just ignored. I wish I'd told her how I'd felt. Right? But for me, this statement also is so true when it comes to ourselves. Being honest and open and courageous, because that's the word she uses. I wish I'd had the courage. courageous to express my feelings, and I'm going to add, to myself. Allow myself to feel feelings. Because in this profession, all day long, we squash down how we feel and we move past. And I think it goes hand in hand with the expectations of others. I'm not expected to, others don't expect me to feel my feelings as a doctor, to have feelings, or as a mom, as a parent, as a professional, as a business owner. How often do we not express our feelings because it isn't, quote unquote, professional? It isn't what we should or shouldn't be doing. The fourth regret is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And relationships corroborates, as with that study done at Harvard, that decades, almost 100-year-old study at this point of happiness and understanding what is at the core of happiness. And what they found, the core of it was relationships. Relationships. And I think that what we tend to do is choose relationships that are in alignment with our profession, where we think we're expected to create relationships, and sometimes they just don't jive with who we are. I remember, several years ago, crying to my coach, saying, I just wish I could find my tribe. And here I was already 15 years at the time into my career in dentistry. I mean, I have tons of dental friends, but I felt like I just didn't have those core friends that really got or understood me. Side note, I didn't understand me yet. And maybe that's why. Not maybe, definitely that's why. That's where personal development is such a critical component, not only of our success, but of our happiness, for sure. And then Bronnie Ware's fifth top regret of the dying that she documented was, and this is so key and poignant, I wish I had let myself be happier. I wish I had let myself be happier. I love that statement because for so many reasons it is empowering. I wish I had let myself be happier, which absolutely gives us insight into the fact that we get to choose. And the only person not allowing you happiness is yourself. I know that sounds so difficult to understand, but it's true. We get to allow ourselves happiness in small ways and in big ways. Small ways and in big ways. This beautiful necklace that I'm wearing right now, it's gorgeous. I love this necklace. I just bought it for myself a couple days ago. It was more money than I've actually spent on a piece of jewelry in a long time. I actually don't buy myself jewelry as a rule, not expensive jewelry. I definitely will buy cheap jewelry. But this beautiful piece brought me so much happiness. The fear and anxiety over spending money on myself was preventing me from the happiness of having this piece. And I'm not typically a materialistic person, but this represented to me something deeper about myself. It was celebration of a big win for me in my personal growth. That happiness matters. Letting ourselves be happy. Taking that extra moment sitting by the riverbed on your way home from work and indulging in a few moments of just pure happiness, quiet, peace, whatever happiness looks like to you in that moment. And that, I believe, happiness evolves. Happiness could be crying, feeling your feelings. I know sadness doesn't jump out at you as being happiness. But for me, allowing myself to feel feelings is a definition of happiness. And isn't that so interesting that Bronnie said, of the 5 top regrets, one of them was, I wish I had let myself be happier. Maybe that also speaks to taking action on happiness. Stepping out of relationships that are no longer serving you or keeping you from being happy. Not holding on to those relationships just because you should. if they're not lighting you up, but letting yourself be happier by letting them go. Maybe taking on a new path in your career or working less because it's making you happier. And we all know when you feel good, you can do good. And that's what Bronnie Ware was saying is we need caregivers. We need healthcare providers to be happier so that they can take better care of our patients who are dying, so that we can take better care of our patients who are in pain, who are in fear. Imagine on the last day of your life. Imagine that day. Hopefully you're 97, surrounded by those friends that you kept. Lying in that bed, I'm picturing yourself lying because your body's probably failing you, and having no regrets. Imagine walking through each of these 5 regrets that most people have and saying, you know what? I had the courage to live a life true to myself. I didn't work too hard. I lived my life. I made sure I lived more. I remember that day in 2023 when I listened to that episode on the business of happiness, and I turned it around for myself and I said, I am now going to have the courage to live a life true to myself. I am not going to work harder and harder and harder. I'm going to live more. I'm going to have the courage to express my feelings. On that last day, imagine lying in that bed and thinking, you know what? I had the courage to say how I felt, not just to others, but to myself, to see and look at those feelings, to feel those feelings. I kept relationships that mattered, and here I am surrounded by the ones that truly matter to me now. And you know what? I lived a life of happiness. I granted myself permission for happiness. Imagine that day. That, my friends, is how I want to die. Oh, I'm getting emotional. That's how I want to leave this earth. I want to know that I lived a life true to myself. That's for damn sure. You know, this is one of the reasons I feel so passionate about what I do and the work that I do in this world. And right now, I want to invite you to come on over to www.thebizofhappiness.com, the BIZ of happiness.com, and get on the wait list for an incredible program that's launching October 2nd. I know it seems far away. This is only being released in July, but I want you on the wait list for an early bird decision. And if you get on there now and you make this early bird decision, I'm only going to keep this open for a couple of weeks. I'm going to give you a huge incentive. So let me tell you about the program. It's going to start October 2nd. It's going to finish at the end of November. This is my revolutionary transformational radical happiness for practitioners course, and this is the accelerated version of it. So head on over now, and if you get on now, early decision, I will give you an incredible discount. This course is usually $3,333 for 12 weeks, and I am literally going to, only for the next couple of weeks, give you a 30% discount. That is huge and unprecedented. Why? Because I feel like it. Because this is what's going to make me happy. I'm living these beautiful tenets that Bronnie Ware suggested. And this is making me feel good right now. I'm literally making the decision on this podcast. My team is going to have a fit. I don't care. So this is what I'm saying for this radical happiness cohort. It's going to be 9 weeks, not 12. We're going to make it 9 weeks. It's an accelerated version. It will change your life. So if you're getting to this point in 2023 and you're realizing, oh my God, another year is passing where I am not living true to myself, where I am still working so hard and feeling so burned out, where I still don't honestly know how I feel. I don't even feel feelings. I just feel overwhelm and exhaustion all the time. When I realize I don't have deep personal connections with friends in a deeper level, and I am not happy. This is not the life of happiness. If you're feeling these things, literally every one of these top five regrets of the dying, this is what we do in Radical Happiness. We address them all. This is the accelerated version. So get it in 2023. Let 2023 still be the year you turn it around for yourself. It's incredible. And if you need some testimonials, guys, go onto the website. You'll see all the incredible men and women who have gone through this program. But I am only opening this accelerated version this fall to women. For a very limited time, if you sign on now, I'll give you this major discount. Make this commitment to yourself and let 2023 be the year that you turned all of this around, that you recognized what these regrets were, and you made sure you lived the next season, the next chapter of your life true to yourself. All right, head on over there. That's it, guys. That's all I have to say. I feel so strongly about this. This is how we do the work. We find ourselves in the process. We find the tools to live a life courageously true to ourselves, even in medicine and dentistry. This is when you get to choose if you are going to allow yourself a life of happiness. All right, that's it. Come on over, www.thebizofhappiness.com. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes. And if you have questions, if you want to jump on a call about it, you want more details about it, email me. I'm here for you, Tarryn@thebizofhappiness.com. I would love to jump on the Zoom and explain more, but you can find out all about it on www.thebizofhappiness.com. And I'm not messing around anymore. I'm not. I'm living a life of enormous happiness. If you want to join me, come on over. And I'm going to show you how to do that even in medicine and dentistry. It's possible. I am living proof of it. And you deserve it. Because when you feel good, that is when you can do good.